lovely. All right. Well, welcome everyone. My name's Mhairi Thompson. I am an external content advisor working for EY, who you may have formerly known as Ernst & Young. I'm just going to be speaking to you today just around with our journey at EY with how our special libraries have evolved over the last 20-25 years. Just to give you a quick update on myself, my name's Mhairi Thompson. I'm based in the Wellington office of EY. I've been with EY for over 20 years now, so I actually started off working for EY in London when I was on my OE, and worked for them for about 15 years over there, first as a business researcher, and then as what we called a deployment manager, which was around putting tools out for people. Then moved back to New Zealand and spent some time as our knowledge operations lead for Asia Pacific, and actually just this week I've moved into a full-time external content advisor role. So I work with a team of 8 people, and we're all located in different parts of the world. So my boss is actually based in the Netherlands, and I have colleagues in parts of Europe, America, and about one person in Sydney. So very global, very virtual. So that's a bit different from probably how a lot of people work. So what I just wanted to talk to you today, I just wanted to share the journey that we've been on at EY, just to talk around, how our priority changed, how our technologies changed, and how our libraries evolved during that period. And hopefully sharing that journey with you may give you some tips around how you might want to evolve your special library, or how things could change for you in the future. So I'll just start off with a bit of context around EY. So we are an organisation of over 230,000 people in 150 countries. So we are a global organisation. We're actually a series of partnerships. So every country has their own partnership, and each of those partnerships is a member of the EY global organisation. So we're not a traditional company structure, but each of the member firms that have become part of that EY global organisation. So our core services are audit, tax, transaction and advisory services. So we have a real range of business services. The main part of our business is audit, so where people will go into companies and perform the audit for them. But we also have many people working on supporting companies' tax structures, helping them perform transactions, and also advisory and consultancy services. And we've also got lots of business units across different sectors and industries as well. So we have hundreds of communities within our organisation. So they may be a geographic community, they may be focused around an industry, a particular solution. So for instance, we had our people advisory services that launched last year. That's a new solution, and different accounts teams. So these communities may be based in a country, or it may be wider. So we're constantly changing and growing, and change is pretty constant at EY. So just to give you a context of the people that we have, so like I said, we have over 230,000 people. We've actually had a real drive over the last 2 or 3 years to really increase the number of people at EY. So we have a huge number of people that come into the firm as graduates every year. So they'll come in at, after they finish their university education, and then kind of go through their professional qualifications while they're working at EY. So the people that we have, they're becoming more and more mobile. They're becoming more remote as businesses change. They are fast. They are required to be part of a team, to collaborate, to share what they do, and therefore they need very flexible access to knowledge, and they need kind of automated customization of tools. So what we're trying to do, particularly for these people who often are millennials, they're used to being self-sufficient. They don't need people doing things for them. Is really to drive their behaviours, and also drive the development of the tools that we have. For instance, there was a tool that I saw last week, which is a mobile tool where our auditors, if they're going out to a client, will be able to just take a photo of something that they're counting. If they're counting doing a stock take, they'll be able to take photos and really put that into the system rather than writing everything down or scanning stuff in. So there's a lot of new technologies that we can use to do that. So our mission within EY Knowledge is to really connect people to people and connect people to content. So our team is a global organisation within EY, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But just our aims are really to encourage people to share knowledge with their global colleagues and with their global clients, but then also to perhaps show their tacit knowledge and to understand what they're actually doing. We're also wanting to make sure that we've got a knowledge environment and knowledge capabilities that will allow us to do that. So just to give you an idea, what we're defining as knowledge management is really capturing this tangible and intangible knowledge. So it's what people know about a client, and it may be picking up a proposal that somebody's put in for a piece of work and making sure that everyone else can leverage that piece of work rather than having to start again from scratch. It's providing knowledge profiles. So I'll be profiled to be able to easily locate a certain piece of information. And then also creating an environment where people can, share what they know and apply it. So it's really around that kind of structure and making sure that the environment is there so people can share what they know. Just a quick note, what we don't define as knowledge management is what people probably commonly know as records management. So for instance, in every office we'll probably have a records management system where the actual working file, so if an auditor is going out to a client and is writing up, looking at their annual statements or kind of doing the working out, that's all stored separately. So that's not what we define as and include in knowledge management. So just to identify that's all organised separately from us. Okay, so what I really wanted to talk to you about is just kind of the continuum of knowledge management that we've been through over the last, over 25 years now. So really, we started off in about 1990. So we had a situation where technology is not developed. We had lots of paper collections. People were sharing individually. And this meant that every single office that EY was in was probably doing all of this totally independently and individually. I imagine this is before my time, but I imagine that probably each office had a physical library with a librarian and pieces of physical library there for checking out information. I know that the Wellington office certainly did throughout the 90s have a physical library with a librarian in it. But then what the global organisation started to do from about 1990 onwards was really to kick off the knowledge sharing culture and the environment. So we started to see knowledge organisation, people started to understand what knowledge was, and probably most importantly, the setup of the knowledge sharing policy and culture. So what the knowledge sharing policy is, to my understanding, is a couple of things. Everyone at EY signs a knowledge sharing agreement when they come into the firm. So as part of the agreement they have that they will share knowledge and that they'll follow the knowledge sharing policies of the firm. But then also there are individual country agreements as well, so that each of the member firms will sign up to this global knowledge sharing agreement and will share their knowledge and will also contribute financially to the maintenance and establishment of this culture. So what we were also doing around that time, people getting access to the internet, we started putting all of our information onto different Lotus Notes databases, and also started subscribing to external sources, because that was around the time a lot of the things that were available in physical format started to really become available online and on electronic format. So, definitely varying from country to country, and definitely the quality. I started with EY in the UK around this time, so I definitely remember some of the old dial-up databases and some of the technology challenges we had around that time. But definitely, a real start to how things were going. So then we started to go through until about 2002. So really starting to build a more of a community structure. We set up what were called community home spaces at the time. So these were virtual communities. So each of the communities at EY, so for instance, the transaction advisory services or the HR team may have their own community page where they could share information either within their country or globally or whatever. We started also standard laptops, which sounds really simple, but when you've got a company where you've got tens of thousands of people, have a standard laptop, standard system is quite complicated. But the benefits kind of start to outweigh them when you put the time into setting them up. We also started to be able to perform a corporate search and across the intranet as well. Then going into 2008, we're able to set up ways to integrate content from several sources all at the one time. So I'll show you a couple of those in a few minutes. And so just really set out, starting to think about some of the interactivity that we were able to achieve through technology. And around that time, there was much more of a focus on having, knowledge management as being part of everybody's role. It's the expectation that everybody should be sharing what they were doing. And then also starting up some of the social media options and collaboration. And then going through from 2012 kind of onwards, we now have a fully global knowledge organisation. We have a personalised portal, so when you go through and through to the intranet, you'll see something that's personalised to you. So again, I'll show you in a few minutes. Social media connections, so we have a firm-wide access to Yammer, which is a Microsoft tool. If you haven't used that before, it's kind of similar to Facebook, but it's much more corporate there, so we have that. We have started to integrate some of the service delivery tools and knowledge sharing tools. So if someone, say, is an auditor, they'll be able to, look to see what the expectations are for some of the technology things that they do. Then we actually massive project to move from the Lotus Note structure over to SharePoint, and then going into what we call knowledge transformation, which is kind of the big project that we've got going on at the moment to really change the way things work and move to some of the new technology. Okay, so this is just to give you an idea of kind of where we are now. So EY Knowledge, which is the team I'm part of, we're about 800 people in about 33 different countries. So this is just how we're structured. I mean, it probably doesn't mean an awful lot the structure to you, but the team that I'm part of is on the right-hand side under Knowledge Services, Community and Content Management. So we're a team that kind of builds the communities within the firm and then also make sure that the right content, whether it's internal content, internally generated content or externally sourced content, gets through to the right people at the right time. So as you can imagine, with over 800 people, there's lots of different things that people do. Over on the left-hand side, we've got research and insights. That's a team of analysts, knowledge managers, and adoption advisors that really, drive the tools and the behaviours through in each of these different sectors, or what we call the service lines as well. Then the knowledge services teams, much more around the behaviours and pushing these behaviours and technologies through to people. And then underlying that is the knowledge talent and operations team, just making sure that we've got consistent support for all of the EY knowledge teams across the board. Okay. Also, this is the current state with the knowledge expectations. So the expectation, as I'd said before, is that we are all knowledge workers. It isn't something that's exclusive to a particular team. So, we have EY Knowledge who are the ones that push this, but the expectation when everyone joins EY is that they will, behave in this particular way. So we do have, the leaders. So over on the left-hand side, that are meant to, push these knowledge-sharing behaviours. So there'll be role models, tell people how to do things, and this is who we'll target as we push different things out. They'll think about what the knowledge priorities are for the different parts of the business. They'll be innovative and think about what's new that can happen, and then also recognise people who have knowledge sharing and have excelled at that. And then for the practitioners, so people in the business, so everyone is expected to use the new discovered technology. They're expected to submit everything that they do. It's, meets the guidelines onto Discover, which is our new knowledge portal. They're meant to complete their people profile and share their subject matter expertise, and also to include knowledge in their goals as well. And then from a technology point of view, these are the tools that we now have available. So we have Discover Search, which searches across all of EY's documents and the people in the communities. And this is tailored to you. We have Discover Sites, which are a resource by service line, sector or topic. So this is a really one-stop shop where people can go through and find information that's really of interest to their communities. And then we also have Discover People, which is a way just to identify global profiles, and you can identify different people with different experience and different tools as well. But really connects our people through to the documents and the people in the communities. And as you'll see there, these are all designed to be available on different platforms. So we can access Discover on our mobiles, on iPads, or on our computers. Okay. So what I really wanted to spend a bit of time on now was just to talk to you in a bit more detail around how we integrate the content that we purchase externally and then make that available internally. This is the EY homepage. So this is the first page that everyone will see when they go into the internet when they log on. And this is a standard page, but it's also personalised as well. So so this is my page, so it can see that I am physically based in New Zealand, so there'll be some items there that are focused on Oceania and New Zealand there. And it can also tell that I'm part of the global knowledge team as well, so there's news and information there that's profiled to that team that I'm part of as well. So what this page does is it integrates news, it integrates knowledge sharing, and it integrates service delivery resources as well. So it's also a one page where you can, everyone will see exactly the same structure, if not the content, and we can, make sure that people know that they can use this page to lead off to different sections. So just to point out some of the content on this page. So along the top, we've just got links through to industries, so business unit information, and that you can just link through to that. And in the top right hand corner, there is a search engine that can search across EY resources, so that will search across all the internal resources that we have. On the right hand side, we'll link through to some important EY resources, including linking through to our external sources, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute, including sources like Factiva. So this is, really the first page that people see. It's a great jumping off point. And as you'll notice, kind of in the bottom right-hand corner as well, we also have an embedded Yammer section in there as well. So you can easily see what people are talking about in different communities. Okay, so this is just an example of one of the sections where we have integrated external content and internal content as well. So this is what we called account pages. And this is just an example of Hutchison, which is one of the accounts that we deal with, and where we've been able to gather information from some external sources and then also some of the internal information as well, and just really put it onto one page. So there's one page, an account page for every one of what we call our priority accounts across the globe. So you see there we've got under this, oops, sorry, let's switch forward. On the left-hand side of the page, this is all internal information. You'll see, that this is an Asia Pacific client. It's based in Greater China. It's in a diversified industrial products section. So that's all internal information, just to give you some context about what that company is. But then elsewhere on the page, we've got the latest news from Factiva in different sections about the company. And then further down on the page, we'll get key account information. So we'll get some information on, who the peers are for Hutchison, their latest filings, and analyst reports, who their directors are, and any credentials as well. So it's a great place just to go, first of all, if you're wanting to learn a bit more about a particular account, and you'll be able to just get the majority of the information around it first of all. Okay, and we're actually looking at other ways to integrate content more. So to actually pick up information from internal and external sources and really place it where people are actually working. Okay. So underlying all of that is the external sources to which we subscribe. So we do, make quite a large monetary investment as well as a business investment into subscribing to these sources. I think it helps that we're a large company and we have a certain ability to get some of these sources available globally. So everything that you can see here are sources that I have available on my desktop at the moment. So what we do is we make sure that we license this content to help our people deliver quality work and also win in the market. So we find that using these resources, people are more commercially aware. They can work with their clients to understand business strategies and what's going on, any challenges, what's happening in the sector, just general awareness and knowing what's going to help their client or the potential account more. So we just subscribe to things, to sources that give us, company news, broker reports, government regulations, who the directors are at a certain company. So a real variety of information that's assessed and put together. So the majority of the information will be available electronically through that link on the the EY homepage that I showed you before. So that will be slightly profiled to who you are and where you are. But then there'll also be there are additional sources that are available on a country basis. So for instance, in New Zealand, we'd have access to the NZIER site, NZX data, National Business Review. So that's, negotiated just to be available to people in New Zealand. So there'll be a way to get through to the information as well. So we also, we've moved away from, having this available electronically, partly also to support our mobile workforce. We also have a program at EY that was called Future Workplace of the Future. So we're just making sure that, our physical imprint was a lot less. So, really moving away from having that, physical library from an environmental point of view, but then also from an office space point of view. And then probably tying back into, making people more mobile, making sure that, people are able to access this content from wherever they are. So we have a couple of teams that support the actual acquisition of this information. So the team that I'm part of, external content, we work with stakeholders to assess the business needs and then review what's available there. So for instance, Boardex, which some of you may know about, that's a source that is that provides company and director information that would have come from a particular requirement from the business. We would have assessed it as being fit for purpose and what we were needing, and then made sure that we had sponsorship from the business to go ahead and acquire that. So that's an eternal process. So there are different renewal periods for different sources. Unfortunately, not everything starts and stops at the same time, particularly as there are historical agreements that may have a certain kind of time frame. So it's an endless cycle of things may go on a 1 year renewal basis or a 3 year or 5 year. So there are always things that we need to do just to make sure that we're getting the right content, and then also making some tough decisions sometimes around cancelling sources or moving to a new source. Particularly as we do only have a finite budget, and we can't have everything, particularly if vendors are wanting to focus more. So within our team, within external content, we do that assessment and kind of be identifying the business need, and understanding what's out there in the market. But then we do work with our procurement team, who will do a lot of the commercial work. So they'll work with the vendors to organise licenses. They'll talk through some of the commercial side of things, and quite often we do have something like a global master services agreement with some of the big vendors, where we may have something that overrides everything, and then we can just negotiate country a standard kind of country rate based on that global master services agreement. Just a few notes on how these sources are used and accessed. So generally people will access through the external sources page. What we would try and do as much as possible is have a single sign-on mechanism behind everything, so that we can just make sure that that there isn't a kind of a username and password barrier, which we find really stops people going in to use the sources. So preferably would have a single sign-on mechanism, even though that's sometimes a bit complicated. But what this means is we can get really consistent measurement and understand who's using the source, what part of the business is using it, and that it is actually being used. So we do definitely need to build that business case when we come to renewal time, and work back in with the stakeholders as well. But then sometimes there are other ways, that the vendor may not be able to host a single sign-on, so we will maybe go down the username and password route, or we will use an IP range authentication, so that people who, when they go in, if they're coming from a particular IP address, they'll be recognised and let in as well. So we do, take this seriously and make sure that people do have access as easily as possible. Okay, so along with making all the information available, we want to empower people to use all of these sources. So what we've just got here is an example of what we call the Factiva product page. So Factiva, we have a global agreement with, so everyone has this on their desktop, and it's not transactional for us. That we just have a flat fee that everyone can use the source themselves as much as they like. So we also have, as part of EY Knowledge, a large awareness team who are responsible for driving awareness and people's ability to use these tools. So what they would tend to do will be to work on a particular product. They would tailor collateral, so they tailor some of these quick reference guides, and they would brand them with EY's branding and then put them into the EY context. So particularly with these large sources, we wouldn't necessarily just use Factiva's or with the vendor's own training tools. We would probably pick them up and change them around a little bit, so that people can understand how to use them, how we recommend they use them for EY, rather than how the vendor recommends that you use them. So for each of the main sources, we would provide a series of quick reference guides. We'd always provide a series of frequently asked questions and tips for all of the sources as well. So you'll just see with the little picture on the right hand side, this is an example of a quick reference guide, just stepping people through how to access the source, where to go through, and and how to actually get the best information out of it. So the vendors will particularly work with the knowledge teams rather than with the end users. The idea is that the knowledge teams will become the experts on the source, and will then really position and promote the source in the context for their communities. So really focusing on that. So generally, most tools training is carried out in conjunction with these awareness teams. We wouldn't generally have a vendor going straight through to people in the business and training them on it. It would always be done in conjunction and making sure it's done in context as well. And then just carrying on from the launch of that product page as well, we also have a on-demand learning. So there's a few different ways if people are needing to use these tools that they can get some more information. We have a regular publication of quick tips, so these go out to everyone. They'll be available on people's EY homepage or through an email alert. We also have a series of courses. So these are a great variety of things that happen. So you have stuff that is available online, things like the knowledge fast track courses. So just the example that we've got there on that page, we have a course called Building Client Relationships. So that's really looking at tools that will help people build relationships with their clients. So learning more about the client, who they are, and using some of those tools to do that. So those are available online, either live through a WebEx like we've got going on at the moment, or often these are recorded as well. We also have classroom training. So everyone who joins EY anywhere in the world will always go through a course called Welcome to EY, and knowledge training is part of that. So they'll always get some education on some of the core sources as part of that. And then there's also quite a lot of event training that will go on as well. So whenever anyone at EY is promoted to the next level, they go to a physical course, what we call milestones. So if someone is promoted to manager, they'll travel and go to a course there, and there'll be knowledge training as part of that as well. So it's really about just not just making one course available. It's focusing it and embedding it in how people actually work. And then the last option we have is what's called Knowledge Help. So Knowledge Help is on-demand coaching, and that is available through phone, through live chat, which is just like a message system, and email. So the Knowledge Help team will coach and advise, and also they'll troubleshoot. They'll tell you whether your password's wrong, and resolve any technical issues as well. So they're really available to if someone wants to find a piece of information and isn't sure where to go, they are available to take them through those steps and go through and help them find that information. Okay. Well, finally, I just wanted to let you know, as well as having the self-service tools and the tools available on the desktop that people use, we do still have a group of business and market intelligence analysts. But these people are really focused around our priority accounts and kind of the more complex issues as well. So we do have people who are researchers, so they synthesize information. The majority of people are analysts, so they'll evaluate companies, industries, and so on. And then there's market intelligence people as well. So there's about 350 people of these that fall into this team. So they're really focused on the value-added work. And it's not the case where if people wanted a straightforward search run that they would do this. So they're really focusing on the larger pieces of analysis. Okay, all right, well that's the end of what I just wanted to talk you through, a few of the structures and technology that we have available. So I just wanted to see whether anyone had any questions.
Well, something I always like to ask is what your favourite part of the job is.
Oh, it is definitely working with people from all different countries. That's absolutely the most fantastic part of the job. Yeah. Learning how things work in different countries and getting to know people. So definitely, particularly my I've been doing quite a bit of work working with Asia Pacific in particular, so I learned a lot, particularly about China and how Chinese people work and what their lives are like. So
that'd be really interesting.
Making friends across the globe.
And I know at the start of the talk you mentioned millennials and working with them, and how was that changed the process because they're so independent and they just want to do things themselves.
Yes, and one thing I didn't really talk about too much, but that we kind of struggle with a bit is around, as information professionals, we really value the quality of information and knowing where information comes from, and that's kind of very different, I think, from millennials, that they generally will be happy just to Google stuff or look stuff up with Wikipedia, and then also they don't really care as much around copyright or things like that. So that's kind of an eternal struggle for us. It's something we really need to focus on, just to make sure that people are available and are aware of what the requirements are. That they can't share everything, and that they can't push stuff out to clients when we don't have the rights to do that. So that's something that
that'd be challenging.
A real challenge, and it's kind of a millennial challenge, but it's kind of also a cultural challenge as well, because not every country has that same background or
exactly. So, and it's also, I mean, like you said, a really good chance to educate them and be able to let them know, because they might have never been taught that, even if they've just graduated from university or whatever.
Exactly. And particularly if they're maybe working in a global environment as well, you may pick something up, because we've got some of our sources in New Zealand, we can share it globally, but some we're not allowed to. So we do need to think about that as well. So just kind of making sure that people look at what the requirements are for every source is a bit more complex.
Yes, I can imagine. Cool.
No questions, but thank you very much. That was great.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for coming.
I was going to ask, so you've got the Business Research Centre that looks at the major clients. How do you sort of cover off research into mid-sized or smaller New Zealand companies or their New Zealand's industries?
Well, that if something is a big company, so for instance, Fonterra is what we will call a global account, that will have a particular amount of resource put into it. Some of the bigger projects, so say what we call our audit market share, will be done centrally. There'll be some resource for that. But then for the majority of the rest of it, that's, people are expected to do that themselves. Someone who's an auditor who needs to find that out will just, be expected to use the resources to find that information out themselves with our help. But it's not something someone within the sector knowledge would do.
Right, so you'd be showing them how to use the particular resources, but they'd be responsible for doing the research.
For actually doing it. They need to find out how they can do that. The other thing is, though, that the research analysis team, there is actually a model where you can pay someone extra to do it for you if you have lots of budget. So there is kind of also a pay model there for people if they did want to do that.
Interesting, thanks.
Okay.
Cool. If there's no more questions, I'd just like to say thank you so much for agreeing to run this webinar for us.
Oh, that's fine. No, thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Cool.
Yeah, so it'll be available on YouTube to watch hopefully this afternoon, all things going to plan. And thank you everyone for coming.
Lovely. Thanks so much, Julia. Thanks everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.